Federal Co-Chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission, I'm so happy to welcome you today to the U.S. Department of Energy's Rural or Remote Areas Program webinar. ARC is excited to be partnering with the DOE's Office of Clean Energy Demonstration, or OSET, a new entity that truly understands the needs of rural Appalachians. From the coal to steel to timber industries, our rural Appalachian communities have long been the economic backbone of this country. And it's imperative that as we transition toward the next era of energy and opportunity in the United States, that we work together to make sure these small rural communities are able to participate in any and all new opportunities. Therefore, throughout today's webinar, you'll learn about funding opportunities for energy projects under $5 million available for rural communities with populations of 10,000 people or less, like many of those right here in the Appalachian region. The great thing about the Rural or Remote Areas program is that they have worked to eliminate so many of the traditional barriers that keep so many of our small communities from applying for government grants, and they have strived to make the application process simple and streamlined. I'm excited for the growth potential this program will bring to our small Appalachian communities. And I know you're going to leave this webinar better informed and more inspired. I'll now pass the mic to the team at OSET to fill you in on all of the details. Thank you, good luck, and I can't wait to see the first grant.
Great, welcome everyone. We are so grateful to have Mrs. Manchin kick us off. Thank you to the Appalachian Regional Commission for inviting us at OSET to be here today. My name is Katrina Pielli, and I'm the Director of the Engagement Office for the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, and I'll be kicking us off today. Next slide, please. I do have to start with a bit of a disclaimer. Our lawyers ask that we remind you that since the department is actively engaged in financial assistance planning, we're subject to constraints to ensure the fairness of the process. So today we'll be sharing with you publicly available information. We'll be making you aware of the opportunities, but we cannot discuss confidential or more details than what we have released previously. We are also recording the webinar, and so if you don't wish for your name or your image to be visible, please call into the Zoom instead. Next slide, please. So OSET is a new office, so we wanted to spend just a moment giving you a bit of an anchor for the program that we're so excited to talk to you about today. We were created in December 2021 in the wake of the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And our mission is to deliver clean energy demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector to help accelerate the deployment, market adoption, and equitable transition to a decarbonized energy system. And as part of our mission to ensure that that transition is equitable, it means that we're looking to invest in projects that support local quality job creation, advance environmental justice, and facilitate an inclusive transition in all communities, including rural and remote communities, making sure that the benefits flow to these communities. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to spend just a moment throwing up on the screen the scope of the OSET work and then identifying the program under which we're going to be sharing information with you today. So we received, as OSET, more than $25 billion for these clean energy demonstration projects, again, from the infrastructure law and then also from the Inflation Reduction Act. Our role is to really help accelerate these clean energy technologies to make sure that we're tackling the nation's most pressing challenges on our path to net zero emissions by 2050. Of this scope, we're focusing today on the $1 billion of funding that was allocated for the Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas program, also known as ERA. Next slide, please. And so what I'd like to do is introduce my colleague, Regina Gaylor. Regina is the ERA program manager, and she will give more background about the specific ERA program and the exciting grant opportunity that we're here to share with you. So Regina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Katrina. And it's an honor to be with all of you here today. We're excited, and I want to personally thank all of the panelists for taking the time to be here. So an overview of this program that Katrina introduced that we call ERA. That's how I'll start. Next slide, please. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also commonly referred to as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, authorizes Department of Energy to invest $1 billion in energy improvements in rural or remote areas across the United States. The department's energy improvements in rural or remote areas, shortened to this ERA as our acronym, is managed by the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations that Katrina introduced. That office will provide generally, as Katrina noted, financial investment, technical assistance, and other resources to advance clean energy demonstrations and energy solutions that benefit rural and remote communities. This ERA program within the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration aims to fund clean energy projects with 3 specific goals. The first goal is to deliver measurable benefits to energy customers in rural or remote areas by funding replicable energy projects that lower costs, improve energy access and resilience, and/or reduce environmental harm. The second of these 3 specific goals is to support new rural or remote energy system models using climate resilient technologies, business structures that promote economic resilience, new financing mechanisms, and/or new community engagement practices. The third goal specifically is to build clean energy knowledge, capacity, and self-reliance across rural America. Next slide, please. I'll give you a little bit of an overview for the grant, the funding opportunity announcement that we're talking about today. We're really excited to share this ERA program grant funding opportunity for community-based projects between $500,000 and $5 million in value. These projects should improve the cost, reliability, environmental impact, and climate resilience of energy systems or energy generation in rural America. And key point here is that the projects have to take place in areas with fewer than 10,000 inhabitants. To reduce barriers for participants in these areas, these funds, through this funding opportunity announcement, have a streamlined application process. Also, they require no cost share from the recipients. The submission deadline for pre-applications is July 13th, 2023. Next slide, please. The objectives for this grant funding opportunity announcement: applications must identify at least one area in the United States, as I said, including U.S. territories, and here's the specific language from the provision, with a city, town, or unincorporated area that has a population of not more than 10,000 inhabitants. Clean energy projects funded under this opportunity must resilient clean energy objectives are, this is a list we call A through F. Objectives: improving overall cost effectiveness of energy generation, transmission or distribution systems, siting or upgrading transmission and distribution lines, reducing greenhouse gas emissions from energy generation in rural or remote areas, providing or modernizing electric generation facilities, developing microgrids, and increasing energy efficiency. Next slide, please. Key characterization, key characteristics. The ERA grant funding opportunity has one topic area, which solicits proposals to implement community-driven clean energy projects of at least $500,000 and at most $5 million. The estimated number of awards will range from 10 to 100, with a maximum project period of 5 years or as proposed. To reduce barriers to entry, the ERA grant FOA does not require a cost share, has a pre-application of 20 questions with a 10-page maximum length. Next slide, please. Excuse me. Examples of projects that could be constructed under this FOA are provided on the slide here for illustrative purposes. Applicants are not limited to these examples and are encouraged to propose projects that best address energy priorities of their community. The example projects include, installation of standalone microgrids and critical facilities or resilient centers to ensure continuation of services during natural disasters. Also, siting or upgrading of transmission and distribution lines, stability and resilience with substation improvements, or other electrical infrastructure improvements, including hardware or software. Energy efficiency improvements for community-owned buildings, for example, city hall, police or fire station, or schools that reduce electric loads and energy costs, replacement of a diesel generator with combined heat and power fed by renewable natural gas at a food waste or wastewater treatment facility, or use of biogas from agricultural waste, either from biogas capturing or biogas generation through anaerobic digestion to fuel on-site equipment and or for pipeline injection. And thank you for bearing with me. We just thought it'd be important to share these examples. Next slide, please. The ERA technical assistance. So let's tell you a little bit about two separate technical assistance offerings that may assist in putting proposals together or implementing projects. The first is technical assistance through the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Now, for a separate funding opportunity announcement that the ERA program put out, which was a $300 million funding opportunity announcement, concept paper applicants were eligible for 8 hours of technical assistance. But for this $50 million grant opportunity we're telling you about today, only those successful applicants in the pre-application will be invited to submit a full application. Those invited to submit a full application will have the 8 hours of technical assistance available. The second opportunity I'll tell you about in technical assistance in support of our programs actually comes through what are called the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers, with a nice acronym of TICTACs, EJ TICTACs. These are centers that are going to be out in communities across the country in partnership with the Environmental Protection Agency and Department of Energy. There'll be at least 17 technical assistance centers that receive at least $10 million apiece to remove barriers and improve accessibility for communities with environmental justice concerns. Next slide, please. I'll quickly tell you here about key deadlines. So this grant funding opportunity was released on May 11th. The submission deadline for the pre-applications that are live now is July 13th of this year. The submission deadline for full applications will follow in October 12th. The expected date for DOE selection notifications will be in February of 2024, and the expected time frame for award negotiations follows in spring of 2024. Next slide, please. The Department of Energy personnel are prohibited from communicating in writing or otherwise, with applicants regarding the FOA, the Funding Opportunity Announcement, except through the established question and answer process as described here. Specifically, questions regarding this funding opportunity announcement must be submitted to the email address that you see, eragrant@hq.doe.gov. Questions must be submitted no later than 3 business days prior to the application due date and time. Please note, feedback on individual concepts cannot be provided through that Q&A process. All questions and answers related to this funding opportunity will be posted on OSET Exchange. You must first select this specific FOA number to view the questions and answers specific to this FOA. OSET will attempt to respond to a question within 3 business days unless a similar question and answer has already been posted on the website. So please keep an eye on that. Questions related to the registration process and use of OSET Exchange website should be submitted to a different email address, osed/exchange support@hq.doe.gov. Include the funding opportunity announcement name and number in the subject line. Please also refer to the FOA, or Funding Opportunity Announcement, for the definition of used terms and additional information related to the requirements and any additional post-application submission information. Thank you for listening. I will now pass it back to Katrina.
Great. Thank you so much, Regina. We're thrilled to be able to share with you the important grant opportunity, really just underscoring how that opportunity is streamlined. That pre-application only has 20 questions. We're excited for you to apply, no cost share required. And so again, thank you so much to the Appalachian Regional Commission for having us today. We're thrilled as OSED. And one of the things we're excited to do now is introduce Heidi Binko. She is the Executive Director and co-founder of the Just Transition Fund. And Heidi will share with you some resources that also may be of interest to you. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Heidi. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. My name is Heidi Binko. I am the Executive Director of the Just Transition Fund, and I created the Just Transition Fund in 2015 with the specific purpose of helping communities access what was available, what had been made available through the Obama administration, which was the Power Initiative, which was the first time that federal funding was made available to help communities in transition. Next slide, please. So the Just Transition Fund works across the country with coal communities, and our main purpose there is to help communities alleviate the economic distress that they're facing. With the amount of funding that's been made available through the Biden administration, which we're really excited about, we're thrilled with the opportunity, but we also recognize that communities, particularly low capacity communities, have a difficult time accessing federal funds without intervention or additional supports. And so our Federal Access Center, which has been operating at a lower scale since 2015, but really operating on a much larger scale since 2021, was created as a one-stop resource hub to help communities that are trying to access federal funds. So what we do is we support communities at 2 different phases. So first of all, we have our application ready supports, which are available on a rolling basis throughout the year. So if you are an organization that is going after the ERA program that Regina was just talking about, or if you're interested in the ARISE program that Jennifer is going to talk about in a few minutes, please come in and talk with us. We have offered 2 different types of support with our application ready grants. The first one are grants that are up to $100,000, and they can be made for, they can be awarded for a variety of purposes, for additional expertise or resources that you need to submit a competitive application, to hire a grant writer. They can be used as match. They can be used as for another purpose. Now with ERA, you know, as Regina said, there's no cost share required, but with ARISE and with many federal programs there are, and we know that that can be a tremendous barrier for small communities. The second type of support that we provide to our application ready organizations, and I should say that application ready means that you are ready to go. You've identified a program that you want to apply for. That's going to happen in the next six to 9 months, right? Technical assistance is the other type of support that we provide, and we have got experts both within the JTF and through a deep bench of consultants that we work with that can really sit down and help you review your application to submit that more competitive proposal. The second type of support that we offer is through our early stage support. And I'm really excited to note that we just launched in the last couple of weeks our Coal Communities Get Ready Challenge. And for that, we'll be selecting 8 to 10 groups across the country. We're providing them with grants of up to $150,000 and also deep technical assistance. And this program is really designed for communities that have a really big economic idea or vision for their future, but aren't used to going after federal funds and really need some help getting there. So whether you're at you're ready to go and you're at the application stage, or you're a little bit of an earlier stage, we have the resources available to you through our Federal Access Center, and we are ready to go. So we hope to hear from you. Next slide, please. If you are going after application ready support, and I won't spend too much time talking with this, but the process is fairly straightforward. The first thing that we need to do is have you submit an inquiry, and I'm going to show you a QR code in just a minute that'll help you get started. And then from there, it's about a 2 to 3 week turnaround time. So we move really quickly from the inquiry. We'll schedule an introductory call with you, and then we'll have you submit a very, very short application, and you'll hear from us, like I said, usually within 2 to 3 weeks. Next slide, please. Our early stage support, if you're interested in this, it's a new and big opportunity. Submit an inquiry. I'll show you the QR code for that in just a moment too, by May 31st. And it's a very similar process. We'll hold an introductory call. The application will be due by the end of June. And we're actually, I think, we're getting ready to delay that to July 15th. And we'll be selecting a cohort in September. And I should say that the exciting part of that program is that in addition to the grants and the technical assistance that you'll receive to help your organization get ready to apply for federal funds, you'll also be connected to a cohort of your peers that will be pulling together throughout the year so that people can really learn from each other and learn what's working in other communities. Next slide, please. And with that, here are the 2 QR codes. So it really just starts by you sending us an inquiry. But again, all of the federal money that is available now through the Department of Energy, as Regina talked about, or through ARC, it's really a historic moment. And again, we understand that barriers exist and that you're likely going to need help applying. And if you do, please, the Just Transition Fund has resources to help. So with that, I will turn it back over to Katrina.
Great. Thank you so much, Heidi. Really appreciate that. And just one final reminder before we pass it to Jennifer, the information that we presented as OSET is about a specific grant FOA. The FOA is that guiding document, and so we recognize and would ask that you refer to that FOA. We have included some important information in the chat. And so with that, I'm thrilled to pass everything over to Jennifer. Jennifer is with ARC and will close us out. So Jennifer, over to you.
Thank you, Katrina. And I just want to say thank you to the Department of Energy, Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, and to Heidi at the Just Transition Fund, and to everyone who attended this webinar. This is an incredible opportunity for rural and remote communities with populations of 10,000 or less. And we know in Appalachian region, that's quite a few. Rarely will you find a no cost, no match funding opportunity to upgrade your energy infrastructure. And I appreciate the Arise plug, but I'm not going to talk about that, but you can go to ARC and find out more about that program. But I challenge you to work with your communities and identify a project and complete the pre-application by July 13th. You have nothing to lose and so much to gain. Well, I hope you enjoyed this program that was put together specifically for the Appalachian region, and thank you again for attending.